Good morning, this is Salome putting on my microphone. And I've got beautiful Kirstin Bouse with me this morning. This is the Shine Show. This is the show where entrepreneurs come to get information, education and entertainment on all things online marketing and things that we find valuable to us. If you're brand new to the show, my name is Salome Schillack. I am the creator of the Facebook Live Superstar online program, and if you are looking to use Facebook Live to reach more people and grow your business, then you can check it out at shineandsucceed.com/webinar. So shineandsucceed.com/webinar. I will be posting that link at the end of the show. Today we are talking about how to take the overwhelm out of motherhood. Now, I know 90% of my audience are entrepreneurs and mummies, and so I've got beautiful Kirstin Bouse here with me today. Kirstin is a clinical psychologist and a mother of 4, so she knows what she's talking about when she's talking about motherhood. Kirstin, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Welcome. Can you please give us a little bit of background? Tell us how the conscious mother was born.
Oh, wow. I would love to actually say that it was a strategic thing, but I guess how it was really born was working with lots of women who came to see me, often for very different reasons, but inevitably discussions about parenting became part of the session.
Yeah.
And, you know, the same kinds of themes came up again and again and again in therapy. And so I began doing some more research in the area, and really the themes that were coming up for them were also the themes that the research was telling us, you know, to tend to arise for people and mothers in particular, in terms of what they find difficult. And so I figured I would develop a program. So my plan when I sat down in front of my computer was to pull all the information that I'd, you know, researched, all the information I'd learned from mums that I'd worked with, and I was going to put it together in a formal program so that I could perhaps run it with groups of women, because we do like all talking with one another.
We like chatting.
We do.
Yeah.
And also then I thought other psychologists could run it. But when I sat down to do that, what came out was the book For Mums, The Conscious Mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you gave birth to the book without really meaning to.
Yeah. Absolutely. I actually decided at some point to just really surrender to, I guess, the voice that kept coming out.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's how The Conscious Mother was really born.
That is incredible. So The Conscious Mother is a book?
Yes, it is.
And,
It's a book, and it's a bunch of programs as well. So I guess there's a number of different ways to look at it, and the book is the most portable and easily accessible way for women to learn about themselves, so that they can actually feel really grounded in how they mother. There's an awful lot of information out there that we can all plug into, and look, I'm a big believer that education and information is a good thing, but I don't know, this area just seems to be an area where we get overwhelmed by it, and we really beat ourselves up with, you know, the fact that we're not doing what this person says we're supposed to be doing, or that person. So we bounce around. And I think what we've lost is the ability to tap into what's right for us.
Yes.
And for me, that's pivotal, because I've just worked with so many women now, and being a mum myself, that when I know, you know, when I know what's important to me, and when they know what's important to them, the values that they want to mother from, and they know their strengths, and they also kind of know and are accepting of their weaknesses, then mothering actually does become a lot easier. Yeah. So that's what it's about.
I love what you say. I love what you say, that a mum has to find what works for her.
Absolutely.
And you won't know what works for you unless you know your own values, and you know your own strengths, and you know your own weaknesses. Because you know, from my experience, I see so many mums feel guilty. You know, we are so familiar with the term mother's guilt. That if we're not living up to someone else's standards, doing something by someone else's standards, whether it is the way we choose to give birth, or breastfeeding, or nappy, or how, you know, it starts the first day you start talking about becoming a mother.
Yes.
And I don't know if it ever ends.
No.
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's grandmother's guilt, but, but I don't know if it ever ends. And it's just that it can sometimes become a wheel of judgment. So how do we get out of that?
Okay, well, I mean, as you said, it's really about knowing yourself. So one of the things that the book does, and then if the book's, you know, sparks people's interest or isn't quite enough, then there's the online workshop, the face-to-face workshop, and there will be my first retreat at the end of August, early September. I'm just locking in the dates now. But essentially, it's really understanding the stories that you have heard throughout your life and you've created throughout your life that really start to define what a good mother is for you. And it's unpacking that. And look, we just all of us, we have to go about our lives and get on with things. I mean, I'm a psychologist, so I'm a big believer in therapy and personal development. But the flip side is you got to stop navel gazing sometimes. You got to just get on and do things. But unfortunately, I think when it comes to mothering, it's such a demanding role that we go straight into doing things and we actually don't stop and navel gaze enough. And I think the navel gazing of, okay, well, where did I learn about what a good mother is? You know, what was my mum like? What did I like about that? What didn't I like about that? Was my auntie a really important figure in my life? And if so, what was it that she contributed to my development? Do I want to embody some of those qualities as well? The other thing that's really interesting is thinking about, you know, what kind of father you want your partner to be.
Absolutely.
And that can be an interesting one. But it's really, really important because you may be expecting your partner to be a similar dad to your own dad. And that's not what he plans to be at all. So it's about having those conversations. It's about stopping and reflecting on those kinds of things. And things like, you know, the process of falling pregnant, being pregnant, if you lose babies along the way, your birth experience, you know, whether it was kind of as you'd expect or whether it was really traumatic, all of those kinds of things, actually, they're part of your motherhood story and they're part of your identity. And they can be really enriching or they can actually make it more difficult for you. And it's really kind of working through that and making sure that you're being the mum that you want to be, not what somebody else wants you to be.
I love that. I love that there's so much freedom in being comfortable with saying, it's okay for me to be the kind of mum I want to be and live up to my standards and my expectations and to not have a care in the world about other people's expectations and other people's values.
Absolutely.
Right? Can you give us some examples of some stories that women have made up and how, you know, or stories of how they've changed the stories, you know, examples of how they've changed their stories and what the result was?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, there's a few that stand out over the course of my career, and one in particular I'm thinking is someone who found it really difficult to fall pregnant, really, you know, had to go down the path of medical intervention.
Which is really common today.
Oh, absolutely.
I had no idea how common it is until I joined a mother's group and realised how many of my friends are having it. Absolutely.
And for some people, when they finally do fall pregnant and, you know, life unfolds and becoming a mother happens and all the rest, you know, you just kind of, they get on and do it and it's a lovely experience with the usual ups and downs. But this particular lady actually had quite a difficult, you know, what she would call a difficult baby, and he was, you know, he was certainly not doing what we would like babies to do by any means. And for her, because falling pregnant had been so difficult, even back then, she was starting to think, maybe this is the universe's way of telling me I'm not supposed to be a mum. So when she fell pregnant, it was like, oh, okay, nope, the universe thinks I should be a mum. But the reality is that when her baby started to be difficult for her, it was more evidence. You know, it was like, okay, there we go. The universe is saying that I really shouldn't be a mum. And when you're kind of trying to mother from that place, it's really, really tough. And everything that was going on between her and her baby was filtered through that belief of clearly I shouldn't be a mum, I'm not good at this and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, that was a real process of trying to help her have a different perspective and really challenging her beliefs and helping her understand just what a vicious cycle she was setting up in that process, that if that's how she's thinking, then, it does influence how she behaves and relates to her baby in a really subtle way. And then, rather than, I guess, just having a perspective that she happened to get, she happened to draw the short straw and get this baby who wouldn't sleep and had difficulty feeding and all those kinds of things. So, I mean, that's just one example. There are certainly many others that I have.
I guess it comes back to the law of focus. The law of focus says what we focus on is what we get, to the exclusion of everything else. And we set up these self-fulfilling prophecies. So if she believes that she isn't meant to be a mum, or she believes that she isn't a good mum, or she believes, any of the rubbish we tell ourselves, that little, I call it the monkey mind. The monkey mind is that voice in your head that feeds you the rubbish.
Yes, absolutely.
If you listen to that voice, then you will focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And consistently, you will prove to yourself that you're right. Right.
Yeah.
So when you're working with these women, you help them change the conversation in their heads.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think, look, these are, as you're saying, these are principles for anything in life. The stuff that you say in your head will determine, how your life unfolds and the decisions you make and all those kinds of things. And this is just a really particular area that I guess, can have significant impacts in that, people can start to suffer from anxiety and depression and find it very difficult to bond with their baby, and that has a flow-on effect. And we really want to, I really want mums to have a different experience of motherhood for themselves, but also because, we need as beautiful a relationship. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking roses here. There's a reality to it, but we need a really strong relationship between mums and their babies, because we know that really influences how babies' brains are wired, and then how babies develop from there, and their experience of their first relationships, which is with their mum and their dad, really lay the neurological templates for their relationships as they move through life. We know that. We know that we can actually. We can kind of do some assessments as psychologists, and this has been a long time in my industry, maybe 50 years worth of research in this particular area, where we can actually predict the kind of romantic relationship someone will have based on the relationship they have with their parent. Particularly if there's no, what we would call a corrective experience during the course of their life. People...
so thankfully there can be corrective experiences.
Absolutely. There can be other people who just kind of fill those gaps that perhaps for some reason parents can't fill. People can go off and have therapy as well, all sorts of things.
Lots of ways to correct that.
Definitely.
But we want to give our kids the best start we can, and we want to look after our mothers as best as we can. Do you find that it's still a bit of are women getting more comfortable with talking about depression?
The funny thing is, I was actually talking to a researcher in this area on Friday, and what her research has found doesn't surprise me, but it might surprise others. And one of the things it's found is that more, I guess, ambitious, and I use that in the nicest words. So I would say I'm ambitious, you're ambitious. We have goals, dreams. Women who want to actively create a life for themselves are actually the least likely to acknowledge that they're having these difficulties.
Okay, to acknowledge it.
And the
independent.
Absolutely, they don't want to, they don't want to admit that they're having hiccups, and so they actually take much longer to access support and help. And I think there's a number of reasons. One is we don't want to kind of admit defeat. We're usually pretty focused on, this is my goal.
How hard can this be? and I've achieved so much. How hard can this be?
Exactly. But we're also good problem solvers. So if we can't kind of get to our goal from one path, we will always look for other ways. And so we I think women in that particular category, and again, I'll pop myself in this category, actually, you know, we have to exhaust almost all our own resources completely before we will actually, you know, kind of say, okay, this is too much, I need some help. And it's so much so that there's a particular tool that most mums should fill out when they're actually during their pregnancy and when they've just had their baby, that looks at postnatal anxiety and depression. And that research also shows that most of the women in that particular category are likely to be dishonest on that particular scale. They just don't want to admit
when you said, like, I remember having to fill out a form for the community nurse.
Yep.
And the questions were so ridiculous. Like, are you sleeping less than you used to?
Yeah. Yes.
Are you crying more? Yes, she's biting my nipple. Of course I'm crying more. It's such ridiculous questions.
Yeah.
So is there a questionnaire that you've got in your book that actually sort of hits to it, or
not in that particular sense? I've certainly got a questionnaire in my book more for women who are pregnant to kind of just start having them think about what's bothering them. But the international kind of standardized tool is probably the one you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe.
But you've also got to contextualize it, and any results of that kind of stuff. I mean, this isn't a Dolly magazine or a Cleo magazine questionnaire, and you've always got to make sense of the answers by talking with the person afterwards, and that's one thing that the health system doesn't do that great. They're under-resourced, so the follow-up's not necessarily there, but I think, you know, women who it depends when it's done, because if it's early days, baby blues is so common. Whereas if you're responding in certain ways 6 months down the track, then it's probably a bit more of an indication that things aren't travelling well. And certainly if you're still responding, you know, when your child's 6 or 7 or 8, and I can't tell you how many women I work with who have much older children, much older children, and will say to me, maybe they've just had another baby, usually their third, and they might say, you know what, this has been difficult for me since the first baby. I just didn't want to admit it, or I didn't recognise it. It was my first baby, so I had no idea. I thought that this was how, you know, motherhood
how would you know how it should feel?
So that's very common.
That's really cool. Do you know what I love about this program is that it creates a very safe space where women can talk about these things. And I don't mean talk about breastfeeding and having babies and you know, the sort of things that we talk about in mothers group, because certainly mothers groups are fantastic and mothers groups have a great place, but it's more creating a safe space where women can say, do you know what, actually I'd rather be in an office than be at home with my kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Or to say, a safe space to say, do you know what, actually I don't like you know, parts of being a mum. They're a bit, because it's still a bit of a taboo to say these things.
Yes, definitely.
And I think what I'm most excited about as I see women grow in this is to see men come into the conversation more as well.
Absolutely.
Because men bring such a beautiful whole other dynamic to it. And I think if we let go a little bit and create some space for the men in our lives to come in and become conscious dads as well, then I love to think about the future that my girls are going to have, you know, when it's okay for a mum to say, look, this doesn't really float my boat that much, and for a dad to say, well, I love this, so I'm going to be doing this. You know, it's just a little bit more of a balance than that old traditional you know, we have to be at home doing the home thing, or dad has to be at work. That's sort of the caretaking and the nurturing to do that together.
We're getting there. I mean, for me, it's always about choice and options. And I mean, I guess that's really what feminism is about, isn't it? Is having those options. And I think, you know, we've probably had the option to return to work as a mother for quite some time now. But I still think as a society, we're not that forgiving of a mother who chooses to not be the primary caregiver. You know, I really do hope that changes, because I completely agree, men bring some gorgeous qualities to the table. And certainly we know that children really benefit from two-parent families, and that doesn't have to be fathers and mothers. It can be mum and dad and dad. It's about having two really present people in their lives. because parenting's hard work, and if you've got a good tag team system with your partner, whoever they are, whatever gender they are, then you've got that backup. I certainly know that. You know, God, I mean, I was a single parent for a little bit of time with my first, and that was hard yards, you know, and I know the difference that I have now and have had for a long time, having my husband on board, you know, it just makes, if I've had enough, I can, and he's there, I can say, okay, you take over. I need a break. I'm losing my shit here.
My husband knows. I get a look in my eye. I get a look in my eye, and he'll be like, do you need some me time?
Yes.
I'm like, I need me time. I need me time. I seriously need. And the lovely thing is I can just leave and go, and actually he's a better mother than I am. So they're going to have better food. Their faces are going to be cleaner. They're going to be much better taken care of if he looks after me.
Even last night, my daughter, who's 12 and a half, was in a really silly mood, and I wasn't in that mood, and I couldn't get myself in that mood. But my husband was more than happy to be really silly with her. And when she did go to bed, I said to him, I'm so glad she's got you, because I'm not naturally silly like children are silly. It's just not one of my strengths. Whereas he definitely can be silly. It's one of his talents. And I think it's often men's talent is that playfulness. Yes. And it was like, I'm so pleased she has that with him. You know, yes, I'd like to develop it more myself, but it's always going to be a bit effortful.
That's right. I think that's a good way of putting it. Is it's when the two parents can come together, so that it's not effort. I think that's the right word, is it takes the effort out of it. It just means that when you cross that boundary, that border where you go, now it's effort, you have some relief. Absolutely. And I think that would help any woman who is suffering from depression or who's finding it hard. Well,
I know to harp on the research, but our psychs tend to be pretty. I'm so glad there's people that like to do research, because I can't stand it, but it really helps me do my job. And we know one of the biggest buffers for anxiety during pregnancy or following the birth of your baby, so anxiety or depression, we know that one of the biggest buffers is the quality of the relationship with your partner. So that if there's already strain, it's going to become more pronounced. And it's not going to serve as a buffer. You know, whereas if you've got a solid relationship, then that can actually prevent the occurrence of those kinds of difficulties. Or if it doesn't prevent, it can usually nip it in the bud sooner. It can be one of those factors where you're not feeling alone. You've got that support.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, Kirstin, please tell us a little bit more about, so we know it's a book. Tell us a bit more about the online program you're working on and the workshops, the weekend breakaway. Tell us a bit more.
They're pretty exciting. So the online workshop is really a platform where people will be able to sign up for the online program. There'll be a number of different videos and worksheets and things, and there'll be regular call-ins with me so that I can answer questions. I think that's one thing. It's usually reasonably expensive to access the knowledge and stuff of a psychologist, and I want to try and make that a bit more accessible for people. So that's one of the real beauties with the online program. Is it'll probably run, I'm still finalising the material, but between 8 and 10 sessions, so over 8 or 10 weeks. And there'll be weekly calls for that as well that people can participate in. And the retreat, which is way more organised because it's coming up really quickly, is actually going to be a 2-night weekend away. And at this point in time, it's going to be in a beautiful place in Bullsbrook. It's a gorgeous venue. And there's going to be something quite out of the box, which is fun to begin with, because we're all going to be strangers to one another, and we really need to get to know each other and have some fun to begin with. And then the next 2 days are really going to unfold in terms of giving people the opportunity to share with one another, to explore their own motherhood journeys and their own stories and things, and really, you know, walk away with a much clearer sense of the kind of mum they want to be and how to go about being that mum. And there'll be tools that they can use and strategies they can use to kind of move forward. one of the key things that I wanted to do a retreat, or a number of the key things, is one is I think women could really benefit with the headspace,
Yes.
with the physical
2 days
space.
away. Yes.
Absolutely, with the physical
2 days away
space,
from the kids.
you actually
Yes.
get the headspace.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
so know that I need that
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
And the second thing is, I mean, this is going to be a really beautiful kind of space for women to be in, and the relationships they'll build. I know it's a short space of time, but because women will be as comfortable as they feel in terms of bearing their soul, they'll become very, very connected, and because this is going to be a Perth-based thing for now, and I'm actually heading to Melbourne in a couple of months to scout some venues there, but ultimately they'll be able to reconnect with one another afterwards, should they choose to. I mean, I'm not going to force the issue, but having run a lot of groups before, particularly residential kind of programs, I know that these relationships kind of continue beyond just that weekend and things. So it'll be a community that they feel a part of. And probably the difference to a mother's group, seeing as you mentioned it before, will be I often still hear in the therapy room that mothers still feel like they have to put on a facade in the mothers group. They go and they might talk about how they were crying their eyes out yesterday, but they would not cry their eyes out in front of those people. Whereas this group will be very much a group where when you're in the thick of not coping, you can ring and say, I'm going insane.
I love that.
So it's a very different kind of experience. So that's what I'm really excited about. I want to I have this idea of sending women out into the world, who are more grounded, more settled in themselves, more confident in their mothering. That's really what my life's purpose is about.
Oh wow, that's just the best life's purpose I think anyone can think of, is creating good mothers. You do mothers and the next generation a favour. I want to read some comments. We've had some comments coming in. So Leanna said, so true, years ago when I had BND, the fact that well-educated women were often the last ones to seek support, we think we should know better, and yet it has nothing to do with that. Yes, absolutely. Leanne, that's true. Leanne says, having a new baby, it really does help having a supportive partner. Really important that they also realize our focus by necessity is changing, at least for a while. Let me read this. Our partner is no longer the center of our universe, and that they need to be a grown-up when it comes to our relationships. That is true, very true. Men especially can find it very confronting, even when they want children, to become second in the attention stakes. It was really fortunate I have a wonderful husband, and yet still had to have the D&M conversation about balance. I think that it is key, is to remember to keep the communication happening. I think, Leanne, I think you nailed it.
Absolutely.
With saying, key is to keep the communication going. And I remember so well in those first few months, it is easier to blame and to resent than to communicate. When you're tired and stressed, both of you, because, as much as I want to say, it was only me being stressed, he was just as stressed, it is hard to communicate. And I think that is when we need to probably put some disciplines into place to say, once a week, we're just going to have an hour of just connection, no baby, and make it happen.
Absolutely
make it happen.
I posted, it's funny you say that, because I posted something just last week, and a woman had actually written a letter to her husband, essentially just kind of saying all the things that you've just raised. And I forwarded that and kind of, acknowledged that was partly my experience too, and, did the shout out of who knows what this woman's talking about, who feels similarly. And it was one of those posts that got a lot of engagement. I think it's a really, really common issue. And it's, as much as I know that you can never fully prepare for parenthood, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that you just got to get there and deal with it. There certainly are some things and some conversations you can definitely start before you have, when you're trying to have children and things, that at least you may not completely resolve, or you may resolve and then realise when you get to the other side and you've got a baby, it's actually harder than I thought it was. It was going to be. But But if the conversation's been started, that makes a huge difference, because then if it started without the baby in the picture,
that's right.
It somehow, when it has to happen after the baby's in the picture, it really, you're able to recognize it's not about, you know, this little being entirely. I mean, of course, it's about the transition to parenthood and the change in the dynamic of your relationship and all those bits and pieces. But it just makes it an easier, not easy, but easier conversation to have if you've already started the conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it takes a really solid kind of guy to be able to be that kind of backup. I mean, my husband actually, in the book, he's contributed some kind of his everyday,
I love that.
Everyday blokey wisdom.
That's wonderful.
Because I think he's a pretty average kind of guy. And he made the comment, which is in there, something along the lines of, you know, at some stage I felt quite redundant. And he didn't necessarily mean it in a negative way. He just really felt as though, you know, his role was to support me. Rather than be as actively involved. And I do think that's a reality, you know, during pregnancy in those early periods of time, mums usually still are front and centre.
That's right,
And the more that your partner can back you up in that, the better. And then the tables start to shift a little bit as time passes and things. So, you need a solid guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know my husband also said it's like once they hit 2, they realise he's there.
Yes.
Like they didn't even know he's there until they hit 2, and then they're all about daddy, and they don't care for mummy. Mummy must just bring food and dress me, but mummy gets no love. Daddy gets all the love, and mummy's just
daddy's playful.
Daddy gets all the love, and mummy just bring me some food.
Yes.
Yep,
that sounds pretty familiar.
Well, that's fantastic. Kirstin, where can people find out more about The Conscious Mother?
Okay, so probably the most up-to-date avenue is going to be the Conscious Mother Facebook page, which is by the same name, so pretty easy, because that's something that I can update really easily. But the website will also have information. It's probably just going to be...
And they can buy the book on the website?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, they can buy the book on the website. I'm also going to be, for those of you who might be heading there, I'm going to be at the Pregnancy, Babies and Children Expo, and it's in late July. It's the last weekend of July.
Is that here in Perth?
Yep, here in Perth. And if people wanted to come and say g'day and have a bit of a chat with me, then I'll have 3 days and be very much wanting to talk to people, or else I'll be going a bit crazy. So come talk to me, and you can also buy the book there as well. But definitely online.
Yeah. Okay. And the online program, you're looking at having that ready?
Yeah, the online program will probably an early next year thing before that's ready to launch. As much as I'd wanted to get it sooner, I really am putting a lot of energy into creating the material for the retreat, which is that late August, early September kind of time frame. Then I've got a couple of conferences to go to about perinatal mental health and motherhood and things. And
in between that, you've got to be a mum to 4.
Yeah, you know, there's that reality as well.
Okay, Leanne
hello,
says...
Wayne.
Hello. Oh, hey, Wayne. Leanne says, are there services available for those outside of WA? So please, we've even got viewers in the US. So please,
super cool.
Where can anyone who's not in WA, tell them where to go to get more info and to get access to this fabulous service?
Okay, so the online program is going to be the most accessible, so that is a bit of a wait, but it is one of the reasons why I wanted to create the online program. But
if they want access to the online program, the best way I would recommend is to get the book now.
Yes, absolutely.
Get the book now, start reading, get your mind going about what this is about, and, you know, then contact Kirstin, follow The Conscious Mother.
Yes.
And then you'll know. And if they want to come to the retreat later in the year,
contact me, please. All my details are on the website. I, at this stage, am a one-woman show. So you won't go into some vast vacuum of information. It's going to come straight through to me. And if you have any queries, I will actually be setting up some webinars to answer queries before the retreat, because it is quite a personal, it's a very personal experience. So I need to make sure that people are aware of what's involved. I don't want people rocking up thinking it's just a whole bunch of, I don't know, silliness and lots of wine or anything. There might be some of that, but it's also quite personal and confronting at times, I guess. So people need the heads up. So contact me. My email's on the website, my mobile's on the website, my Facebook page, you can certainly contact me via that as well. And if there's anything that you need right now that the book can't help you with, then I am lucky enough to be pretty well connected in terms of nationally. So I can certainly help you find a direct service if you need that. And, you know, put you also in touch with other services that are a bit more generic, like Panda and Limetree. Sorry, Peachtree. I always think Limetree, but Peachtree Clinic is another one. I know psychs quite around Australia that I could link you in with as well. So yes, definitely.
So any mums out there feeling that they need help or any kind of support, get in touch with Kirstin, because she will definitely give you the support you need.
Thank you.
Whether it's herself or her colleagues.
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, let me just add one thing. Sorry, Sloan, when you're doing the
go.
wind up. Anyone can actually come to the retreat. It's just whether you're prepared to, at this stage, to travel to Perth. And as I said, I am heading to Melbourne in a couple of months' time, and I'll be scouting venues because I really want them to be gorgeous venues, because I do plan to run one in Melbourne, and that makes the East Coast kind of easier because it's so goddamn cheap for you guys to travel up and down. Much cheaper that way than over to Perth. Again, all that information I'll be constantly putting on Facebook as I nail venues and as I nail dates and stuff. It'll all be on Facebook.
Fantastic. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks
so
for
having me.
And congratulations. Congratulations. Kirstin is launching the book tonight. So we're having a bit of a party tonight.
Yes, we are.
Congratulations, Kirstin. It is fantastic. Thank you. All right. So there you have it. Next week on the show, I've got Ming Johansson coming in, and Ming is a Facebook ads strategist, and she's going to be telling us how we can use the power of Facebook ads to generate more leads in our businesses. Now, just a reminder, if you want to join me on my webinar, coming up webinar about Facebook Live, the program is called the Facebook Live Superstar, and you can find out, you can register for the webinar at shineandsucceed.com/webinar. So shineandsucceed.com/webinar. We will have all the links to Kirstin's sites and her Facebook page and to the webinar sign up in the comments below at the end of the show. Thank you very much to everyone who watched live, and thank you very much to everyone who is watching the replay. Please keep your comments and your questions coming. Kirstin and I both check the comments and the questions for another week. Even beyond that, if we get a notification of someone posting something, we will get back to you. So even if you're watching this on the replay, keep the comments and the questions coming, please. We will get back to you. And if you know of a mother who needs this kind of help, please reach out to her. Share this video with your friends, share it in your community, share it with your followers so that they can become conscious mothers too and get the bloody overwhelm out of mothering.
Absolutely.
Because that makes us happy.
Yes.
And that's important. That's it for now. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.